Hello folks, Pipeman 1861 here, looking about 10 years younger. I have shocked many people the past couple of days with my appearance. I decided that my upper lip and face just needed a rest from having hairs sticking out of it, so I went ahead and shaved. Man, I look goofy without that. I've had it for about a year, beard and mustache, and even after just a year I look at myself and man, it's a goofy looking fella. But anyway, I'll grow it back. But I am enjoying the break. I trust you all are having a good week. I trust you had a good week. I did. Drinking my corn syrup disguised as green tea. Now, before I get into the subject of today's video, I wanted to take care of some quick housekeeping. I am smoking my Meerschaum. My one new Meerschaum. Thank you again. Cancer Crow. And in it, I'm smoking some Mac Baren 7 Seas regular. So, second order of business. Before I posted this video, or before this video uploads, I posted a short video in the shorts thing. Please go look at it if you haven't. It's a very important favor that I'm asking everybody. It has nothing to do with finances in any way, but it's a favor, and if you wouldn't mind going and looking at that, and if you can bear it, please. If you wouldn't be too much trouble, please go ahead and do it, because I would appreciate it very much. Don't want to say anything on this video because it's a surprise, but go look at the short I posted before this video. It's entitled Asking a Favor, so go look at that. Okay. We're doing something different today, or tonight rather. You know, I've shown you pipes over the past year and a half. I've shown you pipes, and I've shown me fixing pipes, a couple of videos of me fixing a clock. Well, as you know, some of you all know, and as I've mentioned before, I have collected many things over the years. And I've had requests on occasion of people asking me, well, can we see some of your other collections? Well, one of my big hobbies for quite a while was, before I grew my beard and mustache, was wet shaving. And specifically with a straight razor. I did that for quite a while, and safety razors too, but and since I love old things, that involved collecting straight razors. And I amassed quite a big collection before I got a little bit bored of it and moved on to other things, finally pipes. But I haven't gotten rid of any of them. So I figured, man, I used one, shave everything off day before yesterday, actually. So I figured I'm going to show you my straight razor collection, because it's a little bit different than most you probably have seen. My straight razor collection, I concentrated, as I have in most of my other collections, I concentrated on particularly early straight razors, as in very old. So, first I'm going to show you the straight razors. There's quite a few of them, so bear with me. I'm going to show you the straight razors that I have sharpened and ready for use. Okay, so let me see. So most of these I did get them on eBay and flea markets and whatnot, and I restored them myself to the best of my ability. This is a George Woostingholm & Son frame back razor. And you can see the blade is just a very thin sheet of steel, and then the spine of the razor is formed out of a separate piece. And that allowed them to get a very, very sharp edge, or a particularly sharp edge on that razor, and they were also able to temper that very thin blade considerably harder than they could a regular razor blade. This razor was patented in 1850, and it has the original scales on it. I restored it, original horn scales. Patented 1850. This could be anywhere from 1850 all the way up to 1880 or so. I think it's probably the 1860s or 70s though. This thing shaves beautifully. I sharpen my own razors too. I use the Shapton Waterstones. But this thing takes an amazing edge. I shaved with that quite a bit. And of course, when the Civil War reenacting, it was kind of handy to have a bunch of razors that were of the period, which most of these are. This one, and most of these look alike unless you're a straight razor guy. This is a American Knife Company, Plymouth Hollow, Connecticut. This is one of the very few razors I have that was made in the United States. And this was, I believe, one of the very first companies in the United States that made straight razors. It says, the American Knife Company, Plymouth Hollow, Connecticut. Now, Plymouth Hollow, Connecticut was made famous by the Seth Thomas Clock Company, another interest of mine. And the town was renamed Thomaston in 1865 in honor of Seth Thomas. So this being stamped Plymouth Hollow indicates that this razor was made in 1864 or before the name change. Again, the original black horn scales, I restored those. All these blades I restored, polished them. It takes a lot of polishing to get one of these razors in good shape again. It has a big heavy wedge blade, or near wedge. And that shaves well too. This is about the oldest razor that I've ever shaved with. This one is about 1810 or so. It's probably made in England. It says it's stamped Reed. I cannot remember. I don't believe I was ever able to find any information on the maker. But see the shape of that? There's not much of a heel on that. It kind of just tapers down. The earlier razors were shaped that way. Again, the original blonde horn, that time, blonde horn scales. And that razor was at some point or another reground into more of a hollow shape. Probably sometime mid-1800s. So that's one of the early razors I have, and it doesn't shave bad. It doesn't take quite as good of an edge. This razor here has an interesting story behind it. See how pitted that is, rusted? This razor was actually dug up by a metal detector. It was wrapped up in an oily cloth with a bunch of other razors and a few sharpening stones. And I bought it from him. It had been restored by somebody or another. And it's kind of neat. The name James, you can barely see it now, but the name James is scribed into the horn scale. And even with all the rust, the edge is in good shape, and that's the only part that really matters. You can see the edge I put on it. And it shaves very nicely too. So like I say, that's probably 1825 or so by the shape of it. That's a nice early one. And the bone scales are interesting. You don't see those very often. This is a newer razor. Newer for me anyway, probably 1880s. And see, this is called a hologram. Well, I think that would be called a half hollow, maybe half hollow ground razor. Well, this one's neat. I don't know if you can see it. The American Eagle on the blade there, etched in there. This was made by John Heifer in Sheffield. And that sucker gets amazingly sharp. I kind of have to be careful with that one. I can cut myself pretty easy. This is another neat one, and this one's neat because I can date it well. This one, and this one has a really pretty fancy scales on it. You can see all the gold, and it says non-Peril, or non-XL, I'm sorry. All the fancy gold etching on the scales there, or pressing. Big heavy wedge blade there. Most of the early ones were. This one's made by Unwin and Rogers. The neat thing about that company is I believe they started in 1853 and they went out of business in 1868. So this razor is no later than 1868. So that's kind of fun to be able to narrow down the date on those a little bit if you can. Oh, I kind of forgot about this razor, if I'm being honest. This one's probably from the 1840s, maybe 50s. Hawcroft and Pearson's razors, warranted Sheffield. The improved silver steel razor, which was an early way of saying they added certain alloys into the razor to make them a little bit more rust resistant. Like I say, a lot of these razors look very similar to each other unless you collect them. But this one cleaned up really nice. The blade turned out really nice. Again, shaved beautiful. This one is kind of different. It's kind of a janky looking razor. Has some kind of crude looking wooden scales on it, obviously not the originals. And the blade's kind of funny. Well, this is a William Greaves and Sons Sheaf Works Sheffield. They went out of business allegedly somewhere around 1825, 1830, maybe a little later. I can't remember. It's been years since I looked. This is a razor that was reground from a heavy wedge blade and a razor grinder. Reground the blade because there was excessive wear on it probably into more of a hollow grind sometime mid to late 1800s so they could keep using the razor. And this one shaves quite nicely. It's funny, back when I did this as a regular hobby, my arms would be bald because that's how I would test the razor's edges. This is this is probably 1850s, 40s, or 50s. T. Hinshaw Engaged Good. This is one of the heaviest razors I have. You can see there's very little hollow in that grind. It's about a perfect wedge blade. So it's pretty. And mostly all of these all have the original scales on them, with the exception of this one. This one I actually fitted a new set of scales to it and cast a new lead wedge for it. This is a James Johnson Silver Steel. This one's also a reground razor from the mid-1800s. Those are usually not quite as collectible, or not as valuable because they've been fiddled with from the original, but I don't particularly care because it does make them far easier to sharpen. Now this is the most special razor I have. This is the razor that I used 2 days ago to shave my beard off. Okay. This razor was one of the first Christmas gifts, or maybe my birthday gift, I can't remember right now, that my wife gave me before we were married. She got on eBay all by herself and found this for me. Now, when I got it, this scale was black plastic, this side of it. The other side was the original. What makes this razor very special is look at this scale. Somebody scratched the date 1850 and their initials, kind of crudely. But that's the original scale. The other one, I took a piece of bone and I dyed it with leather dye to make it similar colored to that. And this is a Joseph Rogers and Sons, which is a fairly famous name even nowadays. Joseph Rogers and Sons, Cutlers to Their Majesties. Anyway, that is, I think, about my favorite razor, just because of the specialness of it, that my wife gave it to me. And there's one other razor that I have sharpened and ready to go. I actually need to resharpen a couple of these. And if I ever, by some absolute miracle, get some extra time in my life, I will. But I don't suspect that's very likely to happen. Now, this razor is an interesting one. Actually, I probably will just stop with, it's almost 15 minutes, I'll just stop with the razors I have sharpened. If anybody's interested, I'll show you the ones I have not restored another time. But this razor is also very special to me because this was bought by me at the first antique auction that my future wife ever went to with me, and it's also the first auction she had ever been to, I think. This razor was in a box of tools. It was a country auction out in Ohio, and it was in a box of tools, rusty tools, and it was covered with old green paint that somebody had used as a paint scraper at some point, and it had just generally been mistreated rather horrifically throughout its life. But this razor, and I think I got the whole box of stuff for $10. And I would have very gladly paid several times that for this razor, even in that condition. This is an absolute monster of a razor. Look at the width of that blade. Blades that wide, that is a little over, I believe, an inch. Blades this wide are very rare in straight razors, especially old ones. The wider the blade, generally speaking, the more valuable the razor. This was manufactured for the United States by E.L. and Company. And honestly, at this moment, I forgot what E.L. and Company stands for. I remembered it a while back, but I've forgotten. But they were an importer. This razor, the blade at least, was made in Sheffield, England, and then it was stamped for this importer. But an amazingly big, heavy blade. You can see there's some pitting in the toe there that I was not able to get out. It was in very sad shape. On the other side, there's still some pitting. But the edge, it took an edge very nicely. Look how heavy that blade is. Just a big chunk of steel. These are in the original horn scales. They were in horrific shape. I soaked them in neat's foot oil to revitalize the horn. It took me forever to get them back into shape. Yeah, that is the original wedge in the back, and I did get new fancy bullseye washers for it to match the originals. But that one, I must say, turned out pretty well. And I love pulling this out at Civil War reenactments because you open it up and you're holding on to it like you're supposed to, and you're shaving with it, and people are like, "You're Sweeney Todd," and I'm like, "Yeah, yes I am." But that's a really special razor. I've only seen one other one of these for sale, and I think they wanted a rather exorbitant amount of money for it on eBay, and nobody bid on it. But that's a special piece of my collection, and also for the memory of the first auction me and my wife went to together. So I think that's probably should wrap up my straight razors for the evening. This is already a little bit longer than it ought to be, but folks, I thank you so much for watching. This is Pipe Man, 1861, saying goodbye, good luck, may the good Lord take a liking to you. I'll see you all again very soon. And as always, happy smoking. Thank you, folks. Bye now.